good. There's not a ton of news. I know that's, the theme, but we actually do have some stuff that I'm kind of eager to talk about. I think we got some fun topics, including, might as well just jump right into it. I think that this has to be one of my favorite headlines or captions that we get to put up here and talk about, and that is that Florence Pugh is set to play a killer sex bot for Apple TV. And I know you said you had seen this too. We're both Florence Pugh fans. We've talked about that. So what are your thoughts here?
I'm in. I mean, to keep it short and sweet, I'm in. I mean, Florence Pugh, period. And I'm probably interested in whatever her project is. I mean, she's, I think, only 25, 26 years old, and she already has such command of the screen in the role she has. She's just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And if you see her on social media or just like an interview, she's got a great personality. She's just like a movie star. And, she's someone who I'm really excited to see where she goes from here. I know one of the concerns is that she's in the MCU now, that people are worried she's going to get pigeonholed or get stuck in, or quote unquote stuck in Marvel projects in the next 5-10 years or so. So it's really encouraging that she's getting even just something else in the meantime. And I think it's more of if I remember right, it's more of a courtroom drama.
Yes.
So she's a android, some sort of lifelike robot, whatever the terminology they want to use is, who I believe is accused of murdering her owner.
Her billionaire owner, yeah.
Yeah, and then she requests an actual lawyer to go to trial. So I'm sure that's going to go into, do androids have human rights? Where's that line? A lot of the topics that maybe might cross over a little with Westworld.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting story. I'm all in. I'll for sure be watching.
Yeah, I mean, just like you, as soon as I saw the headline, Florence Pugh is going to play a sex bot in Apple TV, I was 100% into. I absolutely love Florence Pugh. Like you said, she has a real command of the screen. She was nominated for an Academy Award already for Little Women, but I actually thought her performance in Midsommar was, I thought way better. I thought she was, amazing in that movie. But yeah, I jumped on, I looked it up. I'm always up for a good courtroom drama, and I think that this is, a twist on a courtroom drama, because like you said, it's going to bring up the ethical questions about what rights does, a robot or an android have. I'm not sure what year it's set in, but I'm excited to see it. I don't have Apple TV, but this is something I might get an Apple TV subscription for. So
sounds like could be worth it.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is something quick, then I guess right here, and that is that Snyder Cut is officially going to be rated R. What Zack Snyder wanted, it seems like he's getting his cake and eating it too with this movie. Everything he wants, the WB seems to be giving him. Which, I mean, I'm glad with that. I'm ready to see what he's got.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice, just in broad terms, when any sort of creative director, writer, whoever it might be, gets to execute their vision. A lot of times people will get hamstrung by the studio, cutting it from an R to a PG-13, or changing a comedic script to a more drama-focused script, whatever it might be. That
right.
He is getting pretty much exactly what he wants, like you said, and for better or worse, that'll obviously remains to be seen when it comes out. But yeah, it's just another drop in the glass of the Snyder Cut, and I'll take it and move on, and I'll watch it when it's out, and I'm sure we'll be discussing it at least one episode once we manage to get through the 4-hour cut of it.
Oh, yeah. Now, because, yeah, like you said, a lot of studios will push R-rated content to PG-13 because it's typically has a wider appeal at the box office, because more people are able to go see it, especially with comic book movies. But, with things like Logan and Deadpool coming out and really proving that those movies, R-rated comic book movies, can be huge, I'm sure they had, a little bit more leeway with giving him that. So it's supposed to be for violence, which most of Zack Snyder's movies have been, rated R. I think everything besides, he did that owl movie. He did that Guardians owl movie. It was a cartoon. That was PG.
Yeah. I don't think I saw it, but I know the one you're talking about.
Guardians of Hyrule. I don't remember. I don't think I saw that one either. And Sucker Punch might not have been rated R, but most of his stuff was. Watchmen, 300, the Dawn of the Dead remake. So his movies typically lean towards R-rated. So he's going to be kind of in his wheelhouse with it. But on top of violence, supposedly Batman is going to drop an F-bomb. That's what Zack Snyder said. I don't know in what context, but we're gonna get an edgy Batman moment.
That's maybe the funniest part of all of this, is that it's become such a big deal, at least online it has been, that people are either up in arms, or they think it's hilarious, or they think it's funny that that part's even making the news.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gritty superhero movie. A couple F-bombs make sense. It's not like you've got Steve Rogers dropping F-bombs in the middle of battle or anything like that. It's gonna fit into the the theme and atmosphere of the movie, so I think it'll make sense. And that part, it doesn't really do anything for me. It's just funny how much attention that one little aspect is getting.
Batman's first F-bomb. Have to put it in Zack Snyder's little baby book, Batman baby book. All right. Well, here's the thing that's been all over the news today. Been very heated. Gina Carano has been fired by Disney. She, of course, the Mandalorian. I forget her character's name. Something Dune. I had it here, but she is gone over some offensive tweets. So, what do you think about that? We won't delve too much into what's right and wrong and all that, because this isn't a political podcast. But
I think the interesting thing is that, at least from what I read, I could have missed something, but that they were mostly referencing tweets from like November. Mm-hmm. That is not something that she just did now.
Right.
That if they were really that bad, and I think it goes without saying what she was, the conspiracy theories and all that she was saying was over the line, wherever that line might be for you. This probably crossed it. And then the question becomes, is it a fireable offense? And if it was a fireable offense now, why wasn't it one in November? That's right. Kind of the part that I'm kind of curious about, is, maybe something happened behind the scenes that wasn't public.
Right.
Maybe I don't even want to speculate, because it would, no need to add fuel to that fire. But,
but like you mentioned, that actually, sorry, it's reminiscent of the James Gunn, who got fired for a tweet that was like over a year or a couple of years old. But then, of course, Disney backtracked and said Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for us. And he said, well, now you got to wait, because he's doing Suicide Squad. So, so they did the same thing. Old tweets. Yeah, what he said was pretty messed up stuff too. But of course, James Gunn has a weird sixth sense of humor, and that's what he played it out as. And you got arguments on both sides. Some people say free speech. Some people who are right say, well, yeah, free speech doesn't mean that a company can't decide they don't want to work with you because of your speech.
Doesn't they equal have free of consequence.
Exactly. So the character, I just looked it up. It was Cara Dune. And some people are now calling for Lucy Lawless, who of course played Xena, Warrior Princess, to replace her, to recast. But she's quite a bit older.
See, my thought there is, why even recast her? Just write her out of the show, kill her off, have her go off to do something else. Because I didn't really like her character that much. I don't think Gina Carano is a very good actor. Right. And so from the show standpoint, I don't think it's going to be much of a difference. I mean, the question then becomes, how much of season 3 has already been written or worked on, and how much will need to kind of backtrack to redo any of the plots or episodes in that regard. But I won't miss her from just the story standpoint. Yeah. But if they want to bring Lucy Lawless, bring her in as a new character.
I agree.
There's really no point in saying this is Cara Dune. Just do someone new, basically does the same thing. I think that would work just as well, if not better.
Yeah, I don't think they even need to give an explanation to this character. She's not there anymore. She doesn't show back up. They're off on other adventures that don't involve her. She was only in a handful of episodes to begin with. So I agree with you there. I think, though, that she was supposed to be part of like some spinoffs.
That's the part. I think, was it I'm blanking on which one she was in. The Ranger series, I believe, was going to be centered around her. But now, I don't believe there's been much work done on that show. Yeah. So they've probably got plenty of time to figure out where they're going to go from there. I doubt they'll can that show. They'll find another way to spin it.
I was going to say, could you imagine getting cast on a Disney Plus Star Wars show, and then they say, never mind, the show's not happening because of some tweets that this person made? Oh my God.
That's what we're living in. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That just slip of the thumb can destroy your career.
Think before you tweet. That should be our motto. Think before you tweet. All right. Well, here's something. I don't know if this is new news, but it was new news to me. So I'm bringing it up. DreamWorks is apparently developing a Super Mario Brothers movie, an animated film. Did you know about that?
It's one of those things where I don't think I knew about this one specifically, but at any point in time, if you said this was happening, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. I mean, it's a really old property. The games are still popular. My friends and I still play the 64 Mario Kart and Mario Party. Still get into that. Still tons of fun. So I mean, it's got staying power, obviously, as much as maybe any video game franchise does. And there's a lot of fun aspects that they can work in. Obviously, the live action version is a hilarious disaster.
I was gonna say, I love that movie. As bad as that movie is, it's
one of the so bad it's good. Like, there's nothing technically good about it as a film, but just as dumb entertainment, you could do a lot worse. So, I mean, I'm excited for now. The fact that it is a bigger studio gives me a little more
and
hope.
I think going animated is a good route here for what happens in those Mario Brothers games. To adapt it, it'd be hard to do. I mean, they turned Koopa into just Dennis Hopper as a human for the movie. It didn't make any sense. He's supposed to be a giant lizard, and that movie was so bad. That's why Disney has all these properties. They never made any movies after that because the Disney company was so upset with how terrible the movie was that they just strayed away from it until I think the Pokemon stuff come up. Nintendo was attached to some of that until that sort of stuff. They didn't make anything. But I have the premise here for this is on IMDb. Says the movie's releasing in 2022. A really short premise says a plumber named Mario travels through an underground labyrinth with his brother Luigi to save a captured princess. So it sounds exactly like the video games. That is the exact synopsis of any Super Mario Bros. Video game you've ever played.
That's all you need. Keep it simple. Bring in Wario and Waluigi and Bowser and Toad and Yoshi and Donkey Kong. Keep bringing everybody. Give them their little few minutes, and it's going to be fun. I don't think they'll mess it up completely. I think it'll be a good. Did they have a rating on there as far as like PG or G on that yet? I doubt it does. Not. I'll be ready for that. But that'll be maybe curious if they go like the straight kids route, or if they try to thread the needle where it's maybe like the Sonic movie where it's kind of a kids movie, but there's some in there for the adults or older audience too.
I'm sure. I feel like it would have to be PG just because there's going to be inherent, danger or violence just of, Koopa capturing the princess and stuff. And for movies to get a G rating nowadays, it's almost impossible. Like, there are so few G. You look back at the Disney movies, point. Tarzan and The Lion King, and all those were rated G, despite the fact, I mean, Tarzan shows the villain is hanging. His silhouette is hanging from, like a noose. Yep. You have the tragic death of Mufasa. Those movies would never be rated G now because everything gets PG for some sort of violence or, scary images and things like that. So I feel like it would have to be a PG rating if I was a betting man. But I think that I'm excited for it. And I still love the live action one. I'm glad you are a fan as well. I don't meet many fans of the movie. Tom Holland has responded to the SpiderVerse rumors. Last week we talked about how he said he didn't know. He's like, I don't know if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in it. Well, now he's come out and said they're not in it. Unless Marvel and Disney are keeping a huge secret from me, they're not in it, which I call BS. He's being told to lie because everybody. There's no way all these people who have reported seeing them on set and all the things leading up to it, everything that has been suggesting they were building up to it for so long is just, it wouldn't make sense for him to just be like, nope, they're not involved at all. It'd
be the most absurd kind of sleight of hand move that the studio's ever made. Is to let all this come out, have them be pictured on or near set, just to throw people off the scent of what the next movie is going to be.
So here is Tom Holland, who is always terrified he's going to slip and spill
Yep.
a spoiler because he's done it before. And you can just see it in his interviews. He's so careful about what he says. And it feels like, to me, he has been told, tell them that they're not in it. Because he already said, I don't know if they're in it. Now it seems like that wasn't good enough. He said, tell them they're not in it. That's what I'm getting from this. But I mean, the movie is set. I don't think it's going to release in December, but it is set to release in December. We have to get some hard information on this thing soon. It's less than a year away now, supposedly, you know. So I feel like we're going to get, by the time, shortly after WandaVision, I would assume we're going to get some kind of hard-breaking information on it, because I think they don't want to give away what they're doing, because they still want WandaVision to be that surprise lead up to it. But we'll talk about WandaVision in a second. There was one more bit of news that I saw just as I was setting up for this podcast, just as I was getting ready to roll it out, and that's that they're doing Off Remake. It's in the works from the Godzilla versus King Kong director, and this excites me. That's Adam Wingard. He also did The Guest and You're Next, which were kind of horror thriller type movies, which are really good. So I think he's a good filmmaker, and I think that I'd like to see another Face Off. Why not? What do you think?
I mean, I absolutely love this movie. I mean, this kind of just absurd, over the top, out of control movie. It's right up my alley. Right. I mean, John Travolta and Nick Cage were perfectly cast in the original one. We were talking just before we came on that I'm always shocked at how highly it's rated by the critics. And, you know, Rotten Tomatoes has its issues. It's not sorry, excuse me. It's far from perfect.
Right.
But it gives a good general barometer of where thoughts are at. When I looked up right before, it's at a 92%. And this is a movie about a terrorist peeling off someone's face and putting it on his own face.
Right.
It's absolutely ludicrous. But it's such a fun, just turn your brain off, just let the madness happen to you. I mean, it's two of the great over-the-top performances you'll ever see. I mean, it's Nick Cage playing John Travolta, playing Nick Cage, and John Travolta playing Nick Cage, playing John Travolta. I mean, just think about that, and think about those two guys and what they've done. Nick Cage especially. I mean, it's wild. I don't really see the point behind the remake, but they can have my money for it.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I'm like, does this movie need a remake? No. Am I excited to see it? Yeah, I'm wondering who are they going to cast to fill these roles? Because like you said, those two were so perfect. The fact that John Woo, who, you know, it can be kind of, you know, a pretentious and has like an artistic take on a lot of his actions. He does a lot of the, you know, slow motion doves flittering through in front of the screen and all this. Just to tell Nick Cage and John Travolta, go as crazy, go as wild as you want. This is just going to be crazy fun, and it just absolutely works. And the fact that their body types are so different. Yeah, they change faces, but John Travolta and Nick Cage have completely different body types. And then they go through all this to explain, well, his voice is different. They like even changed the chest hair. It's an absurd concept.
Yeah, you need to change a lot more than just the face to trick someone into thinking.
For a remake, if they will do swapping a consciousness of two bodies and just avoid that entirely.
Interesting. Because I was thinking about what kind of tone they're going to go for it. If they're going to go the campy kind of action, unintentional comedy route, right, kind of truly remaking the original, or if they're going to go more of the serious sci-fi route. And
now Adam Wingard's, you know, especially You're Next, they have a dark comedic tone to the over-the-top violence. Like they do he does have that like dark sense of humor. So I would imagine there being comedic elements to it.
I think this is going to be one of the casting announcements that I'm going to be most excited for. You know, you've got the Marvel villains, the Fantastic Four coming up. This might jump ahead of those for me, just because you need two people, like we were saying, like Cage and Travolta. They've got to be so charismatic and even kind of have to have the right off-screen personality for audiences to believe them and get excited about them in these roles. So I'm really excited and you know, curious to see where they go with the leads.
I'm hoping they don't just pick two super like mainstream run-of-the-mill, like I don't want like a Chris Hemsworth just going there playing the role of the cop and stuff. You know, I want some off the wall kind of casting. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, that they kind of have to. They have to do it, go that way, to some degree at least.
All right. Well, that's exciting news. We're news and talk WandaVision episode 5. If you're watching, this is going to be spoiler talk. The episode's almost a week old, so hopefully everybody has seen it. Matt, I woke up super early Friday to watch the episode because last week I could barely get through my workday without it getting spoiled. And I'm so glad I did, because by the time I got to work and logged on like an hour after I got to work, it was already spoiled everywhere. The big reveal, which of course was that we got Pietro, but it's X-Men Universe's Pietro showing up at the end. So besides just that big reveal, what did you think of the episode?
I mean, I'll refer you to my previous answers. I loved it.
Yeah.
Like the show just keeps firing on all cylinders. It's ridiculous how consistently great it's been. And it opens up so much possibility. You know, is this the true introduction of the X-Men into the MCU and
Right.
and the first instance of mutants? Is this the one thing that's really interesting as well? Is this kind of the main line or main timeline Pietro that they just is now Evan Peters, or did he get, if you will, ripped from the Fox universe,
right,
and imported into the MCU universe that's they've been building for the last 10 years?
Yes.
Or is he some other person? Is it even her brother? Is it, if there's an outside force manipulating anything, could it be just some person that's had their appearance transformed? Like there's a lot of possibilities, and I feel like they want to leave it open-ended.
Right. And I saw something, I forget where it was posted, but it was interesting that if you were watching on a certain platform and you had the audio assistance like playing overhead, the audio descriptive, when she opens the door, the audio descriptive said, and she's just staring there kind of like shocked. It said, Wanda stares shocked, looking at her brother Pietro, and then it specifically says, but it's the Pietro from the X-Men films. And the voiceover work on the series specifically mentions that it's the version from the X-Men films, which I think is absolutely what it has to be. I think that we are seeing the opening of the multiverse right here because, the whole series was about death. The dog, the kids wanted the dog brought back, Sparky. And she said she couldn't. And I think subconsciously, because she was thinking back to her brother, it brought all that. She wanted her brother back, but she can't revive, a dead person. And so what happened was because she was so distraught, ripped him from another version of her brother from another universe. And that's what's going to spawn the multiverse. That's my theory.
Then a question that brings up then is, how does she know that it's her brother? Does she just kind of know, you see your brother and you just know that it's him? Because as far as we know, she never saw that version of her brother.
Right.
And if she did do it subconsciously,
even Kat Dennings' character knew who it was because she says that line, she reads Pietro. So I don't know if it's the slicked hair, or the resemblance. Just maybe she could just see that there was still some kind of resemblance. I don't know. But I'm really curious to see, because there's going to be some sort of answers to this, even if they're small answers, I think, in tomorrow's episode, which I'm waking up super early to watch again. Especially because I don't know how long these episodes are going to be. They have said, some of these episodes will be getting up to maybe an hour long, just depends on the episode. So I have to wake up early enough to give myself time to watch everything and then still get ready for work.
Sure.
Was there anything you didn't like about it? Any high points, highlights besides the big reveal at the end?
I mean, one theory that I've seen is going along with the introduction of mutants is that if you know the comic run House of M, that's kind of when Wanda wipes mutants from the universe, I guess basically, that they're thinking this one could be kind of a reverse House of M, where it'll end with her bringing mutants, manifesting mutants into the world, and whether and then blanking on the name of the city, Westview, will be kind of ground zero for mutants, and then that'll introduce the general distrust of mutants like there was in the movies and the comic books, that they just spawn out of nowhere. People aren't sure what they're going to do. They see Wanda doing what she's doing. Are they all going to be like that? That'd be a pretty simple simple enough way to bring them into the MCU, because obviously they've got to come at some point, and
Right.
then they can kind of slowly play it out from there. They don't have to then do an X-Men movie, within the next year, but they can kind of slow play it out. Maybe have a few smaller characters just pop up here and there in other movies or shows, and just kind of get them into kind of the general MCU lexicon.
Right. No, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I'm excited to see where it goes. And one thing that I really liked about this episode was that Vision is becoming fully aware that something isn't right now. He knows something isn't right. And some people are actually saying, I saw some things online that maybe it's not even Wanda who's the one that's fully in control, that it could be Agnes. And one thing that they pointed out is when Vision brings his coworker back into full consciousness, he doesn't say Wanda. He just says, she's controlling me. She's out of control. And the name is, and we assume it's Wanda because we're kind of meant to. I'm not saying it's not Wanda, but that is a theory that I hadn't thought of. And I think that the vagueness of just saying she's controlling me and she's doing this really does make that a strong possibility.
Yeah, I was going to mention that exact scene because I caught that as well, and I heard other people talking about that and kind of the discourse afterwards. And obviously Wanda has a part in it, a big part, but there still leaves the possibility that some character, whether it's Agnes or not, I mean, that one seems to be kind of the most obvious one, but then again, it also seems so obvious that maybe it could be somebody else. Maybe there's some, big bad overarching villain that's not in Westview, but is kind of manipulating Wanda from wherever their base is, that'll be introduced or teased in the last episode. But that kind of final reveal of when the season ends, it's going to be just explosive, and I cannot wait.
Yes. I am super excited. So we will be watching the next episode tomorrow, and then, of course, catching up on it, talking about it next week. So you guys will all have a week to watch that episode before you jump on here for the spoiler review. We're going to go ahead and end the show like we always do with our recommendations. I think the one I'm going to start with, a movie that I had been wanting to see and then finally had the chance to see recently, was SexBot. Have you heard of this one or seen this one?
I've not seen it. I have heard of it. I know it's very well regarded, but I don't really know many people personally that have seen it, just kind of seen it online.
Yeah, so it was released and distributed by A24, which is a distribution company who handle kind of artistic, sometimes, indie films, things like that. But they have kind of a high reputation because a lot of what they put out is good stuff. They did Midsommar, which we were talking about with Florence Pugh. So I was able to catch this one, and it is just a devastating movie. This movie shocked me. I was on the edge of my seat. I was suspensed and totally engaged throughout the whole movie. And the plot is there's this woman, Maud, who is in the ministry, and she does healthcare. She does home healthcare, and she becomes obsessed with feeling she needs to save the soul of this woman who is dying. She feels like God has given her this mission, but it is like a psychological thriller because she is clearly not all there. She is, an over the top kind of mindset who just is losing her mind with this is her mission to save this person who she feels is a sinner. And there were parts in this movie, and I don't get shocked by movies typically. And there was parts in this movie that literally had me gasping, I can't believe what I just saw. I was grabbing my chest, what? It blew me away. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Is it more of a thriller? Does it, segue into the horror, or is it kind of more on the thriller side?
Now, it was primarily marketed as a horror, and it does have horror elements, but it is not your typical kind of horror movie. Just Midsommar wasn't your typical kind of horror movie. It more plays on the psyche. It's more of a dark film, a really dark kind of care study, along the lines of Hereditary and stuff like that, where you can see these people just kind of breaking apart and, their obsession and stuff. But it definitely has some horror elements to it. It's not a super scary movie, but it was a very unsettling movie.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, A24, they've got a really good track record. They've done a ton of good movies recently, so that if nothing else, just boost the credibility of it there. But did you get a screener of that? Because I looked, because I saw you post about it on Facebook, I think. So I was looking where it was available, but it.
Yeah, I'm in an A24 fan group, and somebody on there told me where I could find it, so I found it.
Okay, very nice. That works. Yeah, but so I'll be watching for that.
I always like recommendations.
Yeah, this is a new. It's a documentary. It's on Hulu. It's called Derek DelGaudio's In and of Itself. Have you heard of this one?
No, I have not.
So DelGaudio, he's like a magician, illusionist. But this is a filmed version of it's a bunch of different shows cut together for the documentary, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's not just a straight magic show. He's not up there doing tricks for an hour and a half. He weaves in kind of the story of his life through these different tricks and illusions and other stories. And it's kind of hard to actually describe because it's a very existential like experience. It's very moving. There's some moments that might actually bring you to tears a little bit. As he gets really personal with some of his growing up, some of his life experiences, and he brings the audience into it in really intimate ways as well. And it's incredible. If you count it as a movie, it's the best movie I've seen this year. It's that number is probably only about 20 or so, but still, I think it's clearly the best I've seen this year, and it's gonna be hard to top. I mean, it's fantastic. I wouldn't even watch the trailer. Like just read the description on Hulu, and based off of that, what I've said here, if you're intrigued, just go for it, and definitely it's one to put your phone in the other room. You want to pay attention the entire time. Right. No distractions, more so than a lot of other movies. But it was phenomenal. It was, like I said, it's like nothing I've seen before.
Looking for a good documentary. I love a good documentary. So no, I'm excited, because I have Hulu, so I can watch this one. So I will definitely check that out, probably maybe even this weekend, and get back to you what I think.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
All right. I'll do one more. So last week I wanted to do like forgotten films, kind of older school movies that people might not be as familiar with. And I did, Breakdown, the Kurt Russell thriller where he's trapped in the town looking for his wife. This week I am going to do this movie Identity from 2003. Have you seen this one?
The title sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
It has a really big cast. John Cusack, Amanda Peet, Ray Liotta, Jake Busey. And it was directed by James Mangold, who did, Logan and the Wolverine, things like that. But it is a movie about a whole bunch of characters who all find themselves trapped at this small motel in the middle of a storm. And each of these characters has a past and a secret. And one of them is a killer, and each of the people begin getting murdered off one by one. But it's not a horror movie. It's not like a slasher. It's a mystery kind of movie. And as the mystery unfolds, there are things that don't make sense. People don't trust each other, that sort of thing. And it's just a really entertaining, suspenseful watch. So if you haven't seen it, that's one I would recommend hunting down and finding.
Yeah, I mean, the murder mystery type, that sounds fantastic. Is that streaming anywhere? Do you know?
I don't. I actually found an old DVD of it that I had, and that's where I watched it. So I'm not sure if it's streaming. I'm sure you could find it to rent at least.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That seems one I could get behind for sure. Yeah. So I'll finish up with a couple. We've got Valentine's Day right around the corner here, so I've just got a couple rom-coms. Maybe recommend if you're looking for something to watch this weekend. A couple of my favorites. Some Kind of Wonderful by John Hughes. It's a Howard Deutsch directed, John Hughes written. Got Leah Thompson, Eric Stoltz, Craig Sheffer, and Mary Stuart Masterson. It's the kind of arty, semi-outcast going after the popular girl, and his best friend might be realizing she's actually in love with him. Nothing groundbreaking in the story, but it's just a good slice of life high school movie. I mean, John Hughes nails that time of life or that time of life, I should say. So it's another great one there. Probably my all-time favorite rom-com, Bull Durham, the minor league baseball movie.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner.
I have that on Blu-ray, yeah.
Kevin Costner, maybe my favorite performance of his. Tim Robbins is fantastic. Susan Sarandon is great as well. That one's really, really funny. It probably leans more comedic on the comedic side of the rom-com, but it's got kind of another love triangle there. And then I just rewatched Crazy Stupid Love as well with Ryan Gosling, Steve Carell, Emma Stone, Julianne Moore, loaded cast. Ryan Gosling is, as great as he is, he's still, I think, underrated for his comedic chops. He's hysterical in this movie. He and Emma Stone have fantastic, just incredible chemistry. So if you need something kind of on the lighter rom-com side, those would be three of many great. I love a good rom-com, but those are three definitely that I'd put near the top of my list.
Crazy Stupid Love is on HBO Max, I believe. So
I hope not, because I rented it on Amazon and I have HBO Max, so I hope it's not.
Well, I know when I watch HBO Max's library has changed a lot. When I watched it, it was on Hulu, but it left Hulu to go to HBO Max. So I don't know if it's still on there or not, but it was for a short bit.
Gotcha.
But all right. So yeah, I forgot Valentine's Day right around the corner, so that's always great. Besides that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. We will be back next week with more entertaining news and some WandaVision breakdowns. And all right, we'll see you guys later.